I've collected in 11 days what took me all of last month to make, which is like 22,000, 23,000, somewhere in there. So it took me all of last month to make that. And then I've made that now just in the first 11 days.
Sheesh. Welcome to another episode of the Closers Network podcast, the only podcasting community you want to be a part of if you're looking to add an extra $10,000 to $30,000 per month to your commissions as a remote high-ticket closer. Guys, my name is Mike Sadikian. I'm the host of the podcast, not just the host, but also a coach inside of our free community on the School platform. That's SKOOL. If you're interested to join the community for free to learn exactly how to do the stuff we're going to be talking about today, make sure you click the second link in the description below to join our school community, the Closers Network, for completely free. Today's guest, guys, I'm excited to introduce, has a unique background that spans from working at Best Buy to selling B2B ad space with the Around Campus group. He's also navigated the challenging world of marketing and sales in Rehab Hospital, where he's mastered the art of building rapport with case manager and social workers. But hey, that's just the beginning. He's also an adrenaline junkie with over 200 skydiving jumps under his belt, including an incredible 20-person formation dive, which we're going to get into. And hey, guys, if that's not impressive enough, right, his journey in sales has taught him invaluable lessons about financial freedom and self-confidence, allowing him to set his schedule and to make more money on his terms. We're going to talk about how he's faced his fears, the crazy but true facts about his life, and the significant moments that have shaped him into who he is today. And we'll also dive into his advice for those of you thinking about making a leap into high ticket sales, no pun intended, or that require you to step out of your comfort zone. So today, guys, welcome and help me introduce my guest, Eddie. Eddie, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Welcome, man. I'm glad you're here. Let's start here. Can you share a little bit about your early experience, maybe around like Best Buy or Around Campus? What were some of the key lessons that you took away during those times?
Sure. So, I started out at Best Buy kind of as a temp doing their computer sales during the wintertime. And that was like my first real experience in any sort of sales. And so like trying to like find the fit, like asking people questions as far as like what they're looking for, what they're needing, and trying to formulate the right, phrasing to find the right computer for them. And then really the biggest thing at Best Buy isn't like their main products, it's the like side stuff. So like the accessories, that's where they make all their money. The services, like the Geek Squad, the tech support, like that's where they make all their money. They're fine with, sell the computer, sell the TV, but like what they're really looking for in terms of your sales is the extra stuff. Like that's where they're looking at. And so it was really a new and interesting experience for me to try to find that, because I, was new. I was young. I was like 18 or 19 because it was my first year in college. And so trying to talk to these like older people that clearly knew what they're talking about, if they're, gamers or older people in general, geriatric, and trying to find those fits. Like it was easy enough to ask them like, what are you looking for? But then, handling those objections was hard. Because it was a new service to me, or new skill set. And so I did that for a couple months. And then my first semester after college, or first summer after college, I did the Around Campus group, business to business sales. And it was essentially like they would have a agenda planner kind of thing for the school. And then you're selling the ad space in there for the companies around the city and around the town. And so for that one, I actually got sales training for it because it was full time. So they flew us out to North Carolina for a week to UNC and did a week-long training. So like actually going through more objection handling and kind of pitching, and, if somebody doesn't want to renew, how do you handle that? And how do you kind of pitch like, well, you did a certain deal, last time on the ads, and that didn't work. So now they don't want to come. So now I have to just say, well, that's because the message that you were sending wasn't of value. Like you have to increase the discount that you want to give them. So it's just very new and interesting experience. And again, just very, I'm young. I don't really know, like I don't have that confidence yet in myself and in those sales. So it was just a new and different experience, and then transferred and then did Best Buy again. And this time around, I don't know what clicked for me, but I was just performing at an incredibly high level. I worked in their cell phone department at that time. And I was consistently at their top 3 performers, and there was a lot of selling that extra services. Like that's what I was like on top of with it. So yeah, I don't know what clicked with that, but I was just consistently doing that, and they kind of wanted me to train other people. And like I was able to, take that time and really empathize and find those needs for people and kind of fit with it. So I did that for throughout college, and then decided to go into physical therapy from there and kind of, progressed on from that.
Interesting. How old were you at this time when you started at Best Buy originally?
18-ish.
Oh, 18.
Yeah.
Okay. What I kind of heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like initially when you were at Best Buy, sounded like you had a pretty good discovery. You were able to identify problems. But where you started struggling was maybe the objection handling, like you mentioned. And then I feel like when you went to around campus, that's where you really dialed in the objection handling. So when you went back to Best Buy, it's like, oh, I got the discovery and the objection handling. Now I'm crushing it. I'm top 3.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think that week-long training, like, because I actually got training with it. When you're full-time with Best Buy or part-time, like you do go like a 3-day sales training thing. But when you're just the seasonal in the winter, you really don't get anything. So I had no training other than like, these are the services we provide, and these are the things that we want you to sell. And then with Around Campus, because it was business to business, and they were throughout the United States, they actually like gave me that week-long sales training. And so I kind of built a lot more confidence with it. And then, yeah, that translated into Best Buy with, I was good with the discovery, but I got better with it because of that, like asking more in-depth questions, not just what are you looking for, but more of like, where are you struggling kind of stuff? Right. Like what kind of issues have you ran into in the past? Because in those things you could say, what are you looking for? And I mean, it's technology. People are going to say, well, I don't know what I'm looking for. Like, what can this, piece of technology do? And I can just list off those features, but like, it's not going to mean anything to them. So I'm not going to be able to kind of upsell.
It's solving your problem.
Exactly. And sometimes they don't know what their problem is. So finding and digging into that a lot more clarity. Yeah. So being able to dig into that made it a lot easier when I translated into that full-time position with them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, when you are doing marketing and sales at the rehab hospital, like a little bit of a different experience, do you feel like there were any set of like unique challenges that you had to face and overcome when now you switched into the physical therapy side of things?
Yeah, so it's a completely different ballgame. I'm sure there's similarities in it, but like there's a lot more restrictions and rules around what you can say and what you can't say kind of things. Like you can't, like the defined services are the defined services. The prices are the prices. Like there's no up and down. And then it's also for a lot of times, if you're buying a computer, if you're buying a service, if you're, going to a personal trainer or gym, like that's your money that you're paying. So like you see that dollar sign come out. For healthcare, it's all about the insurance, right? Unfortunately. So for the vast majority of people, there is my insurance going to cover this. So like the numbers side of it kind of goes away because they're only worried about the insurance covers it. And if it covers it, then that side, there's no like reason to worry on there. But then it gets down to like, it's a lot harder in the inpatient rehab side. The like services that every place provides are borderline identical. Like you're going to get the same thing at every single place. Some places have some extra like certification. So like they may be certified in stroke rehab or certified in brain injury rehab. So then that's your selling point for it. But that's it. You get a very specific selling point with it. So like if somebody has a brain injury, I can say whatever I want, but if I'm going up against somebody that has a brain injury certification, like that's going to be where they get the best care. Yeah. And then in healthcare, you do have to kind of go back to like where they truly going to get the actual best care. And like, if I don't have that certification, like our physicians, our therapists don't have that extra training, like I can't confidently say that they're going to get the highest level of care versus going to the brain injury center. It's like if you have a complex issue going on and things are going really, really wonky, like do you want the top physician in the US or do you want the like physician that knows what they're doing kind of thing? Right. So it's a lot harder to try to finagle your way around there with it. And then, with the marketing to case managers and social workers, again, there's a lot more rules around that in terms of like what you can say, what you can pitch to them. And it's really just about building a relationship with them and having good rapport with them. And then that in turn turns into them like sending referrals. And then the sales part 2 comes in with, if you are going up against another inpatient rehab hospital, convincing them to come to you, but you guys have literally identical services. And then it's really about finding them. Do they like you more than they like the other person is really what it comes down to.
That's right. Dang, that's powerful, man. People buy you. I don't know if you've heard of that book by Jeb Blount.
Not the book, but that concept. Yeah, it's absolutely, that's exactly what it is. Like they buy you more than anything else. That's, I've had times where like we maybe don't have the exact same services, or like our outcomes maybe don't exactly match another hospital, but like I spent that extra 15, 30 minutes, like not talking about healthcare, just hanging out with them and talking about their farm or talking about their grandkids or whatever it may be. And they're like, I like you. I want to go with you. And that they like me. They don't say they like the hospital. They don't say they like, the services there, because they do obviously. But they say, I like you. I want to go with you. They're talking about, I want to go with you, not I want to go with your inpatient rehab hospital.
Yeah. And it's true for the same in sales guys is, that feeling of trust is what they got from Eddie, right? That they lack from the competitor. Even if the competitor might have had better services, better product, better all of this, right? But if you don't have that relationship, that likability, that trust factor, then it's game over. So that's really awesome. I think there's a lot of cool value in sharing that. And that applies to really our sales process and one call closing, right? In the remote space. You mentioned with me, you shared with me like the importance of overcoming fear to take charge of your circumstances. Do you have maybe a personal story that comes to mind, or a significant fear you've overcome, and maybe how has that like shaped you in your career in sales?
Yeah, I mean, the really like doing this, the one call closures is like the biggest one. That I've had times where like I've moved cross country 4 or 5 times. Like I grew up in California and then moved to Texas for my first year of college, and then moved to Manhattan, and then moved to Kansas City, and then back to Las Vegas, and then back to Manhattan, back to Kansas City, and now Texas. So like there's the fear of like moving cross country, not knowing anybody, things like that, but it's not like a big deterrent, right? The circumstances are like that. I know what's kind of awaiting for me there, so it's fine. But in terms of, big fear of like taking that next leap to, take control is really the one call closers. Like I'm just, with my current job, I'm paid well, my bills are paid, for the most part. And like, I'm not, dying, I'm not, about to be under a bridge, but it's just like, in that corporate world that, most people know, like the corporation wants to squeeze as much out of you as possible and give you the bare minimum needed to keep you afloat. There are companies where you are doing like device sales, there's regular, like actual sales, and the ones that succeed are the ones that reward people for it. And just a lot of companies are, like I said, they want to squeeze as much out of you and pay the bare minimum required to just keep you at that position. And a lot of times there's no real upwards mobility, or there's no way to, make extra cash and like really be able to be independent without taking a ton of extra responsibility. And then, your normal 9 to 5 turns into 9 to 9, right? You're always on call because now you're in the leadership side of things. And like, yeah, you got a bonus, an extra $40K, but what does that come at a cost? Like how much extra time are you spending? I had a coworker who left the job because she was working those hours, not making any extra money. She was in the same position as me, and she's working all the time. And she like saw her daughter one time pick up a toy phone and say, "Excuse me, mommy, I have to take this real quick." And that like hit her, because she's like, she learned that from me. Like I was at dinner with them and she saw me doing that. I have to, excuse me from dinner, I have to go take this call. And she learned that from me, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not I can't. Right. So back to your original question, to get on tangents there. I'm just kind of tired of that rat race. I want to be able to be more independent. I want to be able to make more money. I want my extra effort to match the extra income that I have. I don't want to have to ask permission to take time off. I want to, like, if I want to go travel to another state, I'm sure we'll talk about it. If I want to go skydiving for a whole day, if I want to go do, a coaching or a clinic with them, like I want to be able to say, okay, I'm just going to take Tuesday, Wednesday off, and I'm going to go do that. And not have to worry about the fact that like my income is going to drastically drop, because I can just make that up, in another day. So yeah, I was looking for other sales positions, and just nothing really found the fit, or like the requirements were just so drastically outside of like what I have in terms of like sales, because again, I do like sales and marketing for the hospital, but it's not like true sales kind of stuff. And that's what a lot of these companies where you can get paid, that's like, it's really true sales. And I honestly don't remember how I came across one call closers, but I know it was on Indeed first, and then popped on the LinkedIn to look up, kind of look you guys up, and I was like, okay, like it does seem like a legitimate company because I wasn't in sales. I don't know what's legitimate, what's not.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Popped on the school page for you guys and was in there for a little bit. And then I believe it's Marie reached out to me because she said, I said on there I was looking to find a new type of position. She said, like, have you considered coaching and have you considered doing this? And I was like, I mean, have I? No, because I have no idea that exists, but like, I'm super down to talk to it. And then she popped you and I on a call, and then we talked about, one call closers and the availability of like everything that I wanted to do, make my own time, make my own money, be more free with what I want. But the barrier that came into me being able to come on is I don't have that experience. Like I don't have high ticket sales experience. And so that big fear moment was like, do I invest $10K in coaching to, be able to do this and invest in myself? And that's scary, and that's exactly the type of fear that I know a lot of the clients that we serve have as well. It's a big investment that they've never taken before. I'm a single dude living on my own income, paying all of my own bills. So like, I don't have that split where I can be like, okay, well, I live with somebody else or I live with roommates. So like I can finagle this. It's like, that's a big chunk of change, to sacrifice. And like, that worry of, is this going to work out? Is something going to happen? Am I going to get stuck with this and I'm not doing well? And I talked to my brother, cause he has like his own business and, he's very much like, take that extra step to invest in yourself. I love my parents. They're very supportive, but like most parents, they're very risk averse for their kids, right? They want you to be safe, and taking a risk is not safe kind of stuff. So I talked to him at length with it and, all the details that you and I went through. And he's like, I think you should do it, man. Like you're stuck in a rut. You don't want to do this anymore. It's time to invest in yourself. Like this is the time. Like all the other, all the other job qualifications, like the leads are there. You're not just paying for something to where now you have to go find all your leads in something that you've never done before. Like everything's brought to you. You just need to learn the skill set. Like, I think you should do it. I was like, okay. And so I thought about it for a day, maybe two. And then I was like, okay, I'm stuck in there. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Like I have to do something different. And so then I texted you. I was like, let's do it, man. Like the anxiety that I felt when I was like signing up, for the payment plan, for the coaching and everything. There's just so much anxiety, like hitting the accept button, hitting the, like, yes, I agree to terms and conditions. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. This is real. And then, once that confirmation came in, that like a lot of that weight on the chest, it came off. And I was just like, okay, like this is real. We're doing this. The anxiety up to saying yes was way worse than after saying yes. After saying yes, it's like, okay, this is go time. Mm-hmm. Like this is where we start the journey. Like we're actually taking that step and starting it now.
Dude. Oh man, I got to unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot. I go off on rants.
I love it. But first of all, shout out to your brother, because it sounds like if it wasn't for him and giving you kind of that, extra edge to like, dude, just do it. Like you're stuck in a rut. Just make the decision, make it happen. I wrote it down. Nothing changes if nothing changes. That's super powerful. But I think the biggest thing too is like, yes, like people don't understand getting into high ticket sales. Like that's exactly what your clients are going through. And you have to have those conversations every single day. And the reason I'm excited to transition into this is because how long have you been selling now for this offer?
A little over a month and a half. Okay. Or like right at a month and a half.
A month and a half with no experience, right? The mentality of which Eddie came in with the confidence and just embracing it and understanding nothing changes. Like, and then the way he just grabbed a hold of it and said, I'm going in, I'm doing this. In a month and a half, guys, like this month on the board, we're about 10 or 11 days in now. The guy's in the top 30 out of like 150 person offer, right? And I don't think it's coincidence. The reason, like also he's successful at it like early on is because he's embraced all of this stuff, right? And just kind of dove into it, right? And so I think there's something to be said about that. But the guy also, I just want to mention, I just talked to him offline right before we started the podcast, guys. This last Saturday, how many deals did you say you closed on a Saturday? And you had 9 calls?
Yeah, 9 calls.
Closed. How many deals did you close?
Closed 7.
7 deals on a Saturday, a month and a half in with no experience, guys, right? But the mindset of which he got into this with is what I want you to take away, right? It's the mindset he had going into this and everything he's talked about, which I highly recommend going back and listening to if you're struggling to make that investment right now because you're hesitant, because you're scared, because you don't know it's going to work right. Go back and listen to what that segment was because there's so much value in there. Now, over 200 sky jumps, over 200. What the heck got you into skydiving? And how do you feel like that's influenced your approach? I feel like in thinking before you tell me your brother kind of had that push, I'm like, okay, Eddie was like, hey, I'm game because, he's a skydiver. He's just risk averse. Like, okay, he's down with all the risks. Tell me a little bit about what got you into it and how do you feel like that's influenced maybe any part of your approach in life or in sales in general?
Yeah. So the true answer is my therapist said I needed a hobby.
Okay.
I was not dealing well with a breakup, and I had been working with her for a long time, and we were going through a lot of like self-esteem and self-value issues and things like that. And I don't remember, what the exact conversation was at the time, but she says, you need a hobby. You need to find something that's like yours to do for yourself. Like you can bring a partner on along, if you want to, or bring friends or whatever, but like, this is your thing. Regardless, this is your happy place. This is your time where, if things are struggling, in life and things are going hectic, like this is your thing to do. And I'd always wanted to do a tandem skydive. Like I just wanted to always do it. I just never was in a time or financial spot to where I could do it. And then, I would see videos every now and then online of skydivers where they're, looking like they're sitting on the air, standing on the air. And I was like, that looks so cool. Like I want to do that. And so like she said that, I think that night I scheduled the tandem skydive for like 2 days later, went on the tandem skydive. And then, and I kid you not, within 3 seconds of exiting the plane, I knew this was it.
Oh man.
I was like, yep, I want this feeling all the time as much as I can. Like I say to people, and like anybody that skydives, I think will also say it and agree that like there's no words to describe it. There's not an accurate feeling to describe what it would like, what it feels like. It's like everybody says, oh, you're adrenaline junkie. Like, I don't think I am. Like it's the dopamine, it's the serotonin, it's the community is a really big one. Any drop zone, most drop zones you go to, it's just a super welcoming community. Like you could never have jumped there and you have a specific discipline that you want to go to, you go find the people that do that discipline and then you have people to jump with. Like you don't really ever have to jump alone. But yeah, it's just the dopamine. It's the peace. Like there's a social component when you jump out of the plane with people and you go do your own things. And then there's like the peace and serenity after you open your parachute and you have 3 to 5 minutes under a canopy of just like looking out at the view, just kind of hanging out. You can play around under the
taking
canopy.
in that moment.
Taking in the moment. Yeah. You can just have that like kind of come down from everything. Cause like in reality with that, you don't want the adrenaline because that adrenaline can kind of create that tunnel vision and like decrease your actual awareness of everything going around. So for me, I don't feel like it's a lot of adrenaline. I know for people when they do that initial tandem skydive, it's a sensory overload more than anything. It's not necessarily, there's adrenaline involved in that, but it's a sensory overload because you see the ground, you're jumping out of an airplane. For a lot of people, it's like crazy. But it's a completely different sensation, different feeling than anything anybody's ever been. Like there's no words.
Do you have any anxiety going from being in the plane to jumping out right before your parachute opens?
No, not really. When I was going through the like training process for it, I remember it was funny that like the instructors, like as you're going up, they're kind of reviewing, what the plan is, what we're going to train on and everything throughout the plane. And all throughout it, every couple of 1,000 feet on the ride up, they're like, relax. And I'm every time they would tell me relax, I get more anxious. I'm like, I'm good. Like just don't like review the stuff with me. And we're like, that's fine. Cause I know that's what it was good. But like the more you tell me to relax, the less relaxed I am. Right. Like I'm good. And then, even with that, as soon as the door opens, any of that is gone. And I'm locked in and I'm ready to go. It's a good time. I try to recommend it to everybody I can. Everybody's like, well, why would I jump out of a plane? Go do it and find out.
Do you have 2 parachutes when you go down?
Yeah. Typically? So you have a main parachute that like you can pack on your own. So I pack that one most of the time. Sometimes I get lazy and pay somebody else to pack it. And then you have a reserve that that one's like 99.9% guaranteed to open and open correctly, because that has to be packed by a certified person through the FAA, who has to go through very specific and rigorous training process, because it is packed a very specific way. And there's like a small explosive in there, so that way if that does have to pop out, it pops out quick, like fast, because if you need that, you need that now, kind of thing.
Just curious, I know this is kind of off topic, but I've always been curious about skydiving. I finally have the person to talk to about it. Out of the 200 plus dives you've done, how many times, or if any at all, have the first parachute like fail? I'm just curious.
So there's two definitions of fail. There's a partial malfunction and total malfunction. Partial malfunction just means you have to like work yourself out of something, like a line twist. Like sometimes you open up and you spin and the line's in, so you have to kick yourself out. That plenty. I've had plenty of times where there's like a partial malfunction. Malfunction is a strong word for it, but just like something I got to work out real quick and everything's fine. Total malfunction where I have to cut my parachute away, none. I don't have to. Okay. Some people get it super quick. Some people like don't have any of them for thousands of skydives. But yeah, for me, I haven't had any just yet, thankfully.
Okay, good. So, would you mind sharing your most memorable experience, craziest experience skydiving?
That's hard. I mean, that 20 way was really, really cool. But really, like, as I'm progressing now, I'm getting a lot more into free flying, which is the thing where you see people where it looks like they're standing on the air, they're upside down, or sitting on the air. And every time I'm able to kind of lock in a new lock in stability with that, and kind of not losing it and getting out of control. Like every time I do that, like that's the best experience, because it's just like the progression with it. And that's like for me where it's like I'm still new enough. Like everybody, like people that don't skydive are like, oh my gosh, 200 jumps. I jump with the guy I jumped with last week has like 1,500. The like people there have thousands and thousands and thousands. So like I'm a baby in this sport. I'm a baby. But it's that, and I think that's part of like why I've enjoyed it so much is like there's that progression. Like when I was training initially to get my license, every jump there was progression. I would see myself get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And that's kind of where that dopamine came in, I think, is like there's always that progression. Like I've tried to learn guitar 4 times and I would do it, practice it a little bit, I get a little bit better, and then I get stuck on something for a week and a half or 2, and then maybe see a little bit of improvement. And it just wasn't enough progression for me to like keep that interest on there. I've never lost interest because I always see the progression. As you get into more disciplines with this, that progression slows down on there. And so it's sometimes a little bit harder to keep it, but there's always just a little tweak you make and it's a little bit better, a little bit better. So like the next jump is the best jump, really, is what it comes down to. Like I haven't been in it long enough to say like, oh my gosh, this was like the super coolest thing ever. But every jump is the best one because I did something a little bit different, or I had a little bit more fun, or I got a little bit more stable with it.
Dude, like you, I tried every musical instrument. Nothing worked out for me. I didn't see that progression. And I realized music wasn't for me. But talking about progression, I think there's a lot of power in what you're saying about I'm always seeing the progression. I feel like that's so true in sales too.
Yeah.
No matter how freaking good you are, no matter if you're the top dog, top 5 every single month, top 10 every single month, there's still room for improvement. Yeah. Right? And it's just that Tony Robbins canais, constant and never ending improvement. And you're only as good as your last sale. Do you feel like anything that you just shared from skydiving? I certainly feel like I took away a couple things, but anything you want to share with the audience specifically, like that lessons or stuff in skydiving you took away that can maybe translate into sales that can help someone out overcome any type of a sales challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think that progression part is big. When you start out new at anything, there's that big jump from going from nothing to having a skill set. Like there's that big initial jump of like, oh, okay, like I know generally how this works now. And right. I understand the concepts of it. And then the application part, it obviously becomes a lot slower. So like as you're applying it, you see that slower progression with it. And I know that was for me, even in my first month, where like I understood the concepts, but trying to apply them was a lot harder. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to change too many things at one time. Like I was on every single training call I could be. And I would ask, a bunch of questions and listen to everybody else's questions. And I would try to change 5 variables in my calls instead of 1 to 2. Mm-hmm. And so that progression was a lot slower. And then I started changing just 1 to 2. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 variables right now, but I'm changing 1 to 2 variables. And so that incremental increase was like, yeah, I'm not changing 5 in 3 weeks, I'll change 5 variables.
Oh, it's so powerful.
Right? Like I'll have that progression. I just have to slow down the process. Learn this one, these parts really, really good. Get my discovery down pat, talk less. This is a big problem for me when I look at the comparison numbers on fireflies. Talk less, listen more, dig deeper into this, types of things they say. Don't take that superficial answer that they give you that sounds right of like, okay, that's their reasoning, but dig into that. Like for us with V-Shred is, people say, I want to be healthier. I was, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good answer. No, it's not. What is healthier? Right. Well, I want to lose weight. What does that mean? You lose 2 pounds and you're good? Like that's losing weight, but like, why? Like, what about that? What means healthy for you kind of thing? Digging real deep with that and just learning that's nuances, right? Understood the concept of asking, what their why is, but what's the nuance of it? The application is finding those little things. And so you'll see a slow progression as you get better. That progression gets slower because now you've, essentially mastered or like have a really, really deep understanding of like, okay, I know these things. And now it's just really trying to find those like super, super fine tuning, right? Turning it from 9.5 to 9.55 to 9.56, like trying to get to that 10 it's a lot slower because there's just really small things because you're so good at it.
That's right.
That it's hard to find those little things. Like I know, somebody that's always a lot of times on these training calls is Ali. Like he's a killer in this game. Like he is crushing it, right? All the time. I mean, he was on this podcast earlier. And even he's on those calls asking questions. Yeah. And like, that's a big a thing for a lot of us newbies, I think too, is like, even when you're at that level, there's always something more to learn. That's right. Right. So even somebody at his level is still asking questions about, hey, I ran into this objection. I wasn't sure how to handle it. Hey, I ran into this issue with what they're going on in their life. How do I handle it? Like that's inspiring for a lot of us new guys, at least for me. And just kind of knowing that progress gets slower, but that means you're also getting better.
Dang, that's so powerful, guys. And one of my mentors used to always tell me, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And it's kind of what I summarize what you just said there.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Seeing your dad struggle in 2009 after the recession, after losing his job, seems like had a profound impact on you. And I have a very similar story. My dad lost everything in 2000 and about 9-10. And I was only in high school. So I think we were pretty close age. Yeah. How do you feel like that experience drove your desire for financial stability, and how has it influenced maybe your career choices?
Yeah. So, I mean, like my dad has always been very fiscally minded. Like he's very much like he wants very fiscally conservative. Like he wants to, save as much as possible. He wants to make sure he's set for retirement. He wants to pick like the safe routes with education and, something that you're going to be able to make good money in, that's going to be stable. But for him, like the financial side of our family, like that was always him. He was always the breadwinner. My mom was mostly stay at home. She did some, work here and there, but my dad was always the big breadwinner, and he was always the one that handled the finances, the books, the bills, whatever it may be. So when he lost his job, like I was still young. I mean, it was right before high school, I think. And it took a while for him, and he works in IT as well. So like, it wasn't like it was a not in demand job, but he was in IT.
Especially at that time.
Exactly. And it took him so long to find a new job. And I was young enough at the time to where they hid kind of a lot of it and a lot of the struggles from us as kids, because they didn't want us to worry. But there were just times and moments in that where I could, like, him and my mom would be having a conversation about something that I would just overhear. And like, I don't remember the details, but I remember the emotion behind it. Right. And I remember
the feeling that left you.
Yeah. And the feeling in their words too. Right. Like, and even in me, like I didn't, again, cause I was young enough to where the feeling that I got wasn't substantial, because I still didn't like understand the nuance of the situation. Looking back and knowing the emotions that were behind the words and him, it makes a lot more sense to me now. Like I'm able to kind of process that stuff. But I remember the struggle and the frustration and the fear in his voice. And he was struggling to find work, and they ended up having to cut into their retirement a lot, and because they weren't at retirement age, they had to pay that extra tax on top of it as well. So they used up the vast majority of their retirement funds just to make sure, we keep the bills in our, keep the house over our head. And then also to make sure, me and my sister never felt that. Like we wanted to do sports. My sister was in dance, I think. And they wanted us to be able to participate. So they never let us feel
the lack of
it. But I think the thing that hit, the most was that When he did find a job, he had to move. We were living in California. When he did find a job, he had to move to Holton, Kansas, which was like middle of nowhere, Kansas. And he lived out there on his own for 2 or 3 years while my sister finished up junior high. And so he would visit a couple times a year. And I distinctly remember my dad, most of his life, has been very like emotional. Like he's very just straightforward with things. And I'd never seen him get emotional. I've never seen him cry up until this point. And we were just giving him hugs, say goodbye as he's getting to the airport, and he broke down when he was.
This is the first time he's leaving?
No. He was visiting.
Okay, he's visiting.
Yeah, he's visiting. And I never seen him break down before, and he broke down crying. Just saying goodbye to me and my sister as he's going back, and like that hit very, very hard. The sacrifices that he was making, for that, because we had never seen that emotional side of him. Obviously, we knew he loved us, and like he never made us didn't feel like that. But it was just a different thing seeing him get emotional like that, of like having to leave to go make the money to make sure we have the roof over our head for everything. And I think like as a kid, subconsciously, again, because at the time I don't, like when you're young, you just don't understand the impressions that things are making on you. But hindsight 2020, again, that's like, the sacrifices that he made to do that. And that's kind of where I think in the long run, like that's what I wanted to do, and wanted to make sure that, I'm always fiscally, as secure as possible, making sure that I have, things that I want, things that I need, and being able to have that stability. And so like long-term with the career choices, like I initially started in computer science because I was like, that's going to be stable. It's programming. I can make tons of money doing that. And then I took computer science classes and realized that there's a reason that those people make those kinds of money. And I was like, I cannot do this. And then switch to business because, again, that's generally stable. Like there's always a marketing job or a management job, things like that. But again, it wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it. And then switched to kinesiology because I wanted to work somewhere in the health and wellness industry. And that clicked for me a lot more, and I enjoyed the classes a lot more. And then one of my buddies in my fraternity was going the physical therapy route. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting, and kind of explored that. And I was like, okay, yeah, there's a demand for it. Obviously people are always going to be hurt or needing help physically. There's injuries. So like there's job security, money's decent. Like I can do that. And then I went and did that route. And then just kind of got burned out with the clinical side and dealing with the management, but use that skill set to translate into, again, another stability thing. Like healthcare will always be there. So I'm going to translate into healthcare marketing and sales. So again, stable position, good pay, things like that. And then now I'm, like I said, transitioning into the high ticket sales from there.
That's awesome, man. How's your relationship with your dad today?
Great. Over time, he's become much more in tune with his emotions. Okay. He's not over emotional or anything anymore by any means, but like, he's able to have a lot more conversations like that, and we understand the kind of sacrifices that he's made with it. And we've had more kind of in-depth conversations about finances and things like that. He's helped me when I need it as well with, whether it's moving, whether it's, when I've lost my job a couple of times, kind of helping support me with that. So great relationship awesome. Overall with it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I saw my dad struggling. I was probably at the early stages of high school when the recession hit, and my dad had bought like 12 houses in Arizona. Mm-hmm. He's been a business owner. He's been a mechanic, gas station owner for most of his life, and just entrepreneurial, came here as an immigrant, built it up, right? Worked hard, the American dream. And seeing him like for like 2-3 years, he had to get into trucking. He actually started driving a truck just to pay the bills on these mortgages that he got himself in, right? And the rents weren't where they were, and he's having to, put an extra $800 to $1,000, whatever, per house, right? And he's got 12 houses, and so the money he has isn't sufficing to make those payments. So he starts driving a truck just to make ends meet. Dude does that for like almost 3 years, only to like lose everything still. Yeah. And so seeing him go from this businessman to driving a truck now, like, was a huge like change in life for us, right? As a family and everything like that. So. But it was the first time, like you, I kind of like, I understood the struggle, and I never appreciated like what my parents did as much as that moment for me, and things, even after that, I had a lot more appreciation as I get older. I always now that I have a son and a family, I'm like, holy smokes. Okay. I get it a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, man. I'm awesome to hear that you have a still a good relationship with your dad. He sounds like he's a really awesome person. Couple more questions here. I know we got to get on that call here coming up soon, but I'll make it quick. There's one thing I think you wanted to talk about, which is you noted that like, hey, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and millennials may need to ignore some of their parents' advice, right, due to changing times. Let's elaborate on that a little bit and how breaking away from traditional advice has maybe helped achieve some goals. And then I just have a couple fun questions and we'll end there.
For sure. So, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, like there's a reason I called my brother and not my dad when I was thinking about this coaching, right? They're thinking about spending the 10 grand. And again, full disclosure, I had to do like one of the loan payment things for it. So like I didn't have 10 grand in cash to drop. I had to take out a loan. So I have a monthly payment that I have to make. There's a reason I called my brother and not my dad. My brother's an entrepreneur, like he owns his own business and everything. So I know, and he's very like self growth things. So he does a lot of books and ebooks and things like that.
That's awesome.
So like I know he understands like what it's like to take that time and money and stuff to invest in yourself. My dad, again, just very conservative in those kinds of things, like most parents are. Like taking a risk is difficult. Taking a risk, they all want their kids to be successful, be more successful than them. Safety, yeah. Taking a 10 grand loan to go get coaching for something that's not a sure thing is not safe, right? Like there's a lot of nuances behind
in their perspective,
exactly. And so like I called my brother for that because it's like I knew he would give me more objective advice, right? I knew he would ask more detailed questions. I knew he knew more, a little bit more about the sales realm. And like because he specifically asked about leads, he specifically asked about, certain things. My dad would just, ask me, are you crazy? What are you talking about? $10,000 for coaching for what? And he wouldn't know to ask about, leads, and he wouldn't know to ask about, income things and stuff like that. So, I know if I asked my dad about it, he would say no. I know if I asked my mom about it, she would like be very hesitant because again, safety, but I know that like she would ultimately support me just because she doesn't know enough about it, but like she wants me to do those things. Yeah. My dad wants to support me too. So I'm not saying that parents don't want to support you, but they want safe. Yeah. And safe is often not as lucrative as, taking that step, taking that risk and kind of things. And I remember on one of our training calls, there was another newer closer who like asked specifically, she's like, my friends and my family are, kind of giving me a lot of stuff about me doing this and, getting that coaching and, how do you guys deal with that? And I told her kind of exactly this, like your parents want the best for you. Your friends want the best for you. They want safe. They want you to be in a spot where you're not going to have to worry about things. Mm-hmm. Being in a commission only job isn't safe, right? You have the ups and downs, leads come and go. There's nothing safe about a commission job. And so like you have to find those people that support you in that, right? Or if you don't have anybody that supports you, you might have to just take that risk. Like if it feels right in your gut, if it feels nervous in your gut, but it's not like I shouldn't do this, like that's probably something. Like being nervous is good. That means you want to do this kind of thing. And I really, really love Gary Vee. And he talks about this all the time with people that have that same thing. He's like, your parents love you. They want to support you. But sometimes you have to ignore them, because if you listen to everything your parents tell you all the time about your career choices and life choices, at the end, if it's not something that you want to do, you're going to regret it and you're going to resent them for it, right? You're going to be safe, but you're going to resent them for talking you out of doing something that you wanted to do that could have bettered your life. You're always going to worry about what if, right? That FOMO. And for me, that's, my biggest fear long-term is that FOMO, that should I have done this, 100%. Right? Would my life have been different if I did this? And that's kind of, what you got to think about, is this truly something that you want to do? And if it is, and people are constantly telling you no, but like everything online, like you've done your research, do your due diligence, obviously don't just spend money on anything because you think it's going to help you, right? Do your due diligence first. But like if you do your due diligence and it checks out, but it's scary and everybody, in your life or most people in your life are telling you you're crazy for doing it. I've always thought it was cheesy in the past before like I actually took it, but like sometimes you just have to ignore them, right? The people that are safe want you to be safe and they're never going to encourage you to take a risk. You have to talk to people that have taken a risk. My brother started his own business, took a risk in that investment in it.
Where is he at today?
You say, where is he at?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like, where is he at today? You know?
Dude, he does. I love him. He does the most boring thing in the world. I think he does like blueprints and CAD for high pile storage. So he goes to warehouses and he looks at what they're storing, what kind of shelving they have, where the fire sprinklers are at. And he tells them how much he can store, how high those shelves have to be, what type of sprinklers they need, where the sprinklers need to be. I've gone on him with site visits. He loves it. He's super efficient at it. He makes crazy money doing it. But it was the most boring thing in the world.
Crazy money is what I was trying to extract over there.
Oh yeah, crazy money. That's
why I asked, where's he at today?
No, he's doing very, very well. He's doing very well for himself because he took that risk. Because like he did his due diligence, it checked out, and he took that time to invest in himself. And that's really what it comes down to for people that are worried about that. Is like your parents are going to want you to be safe. Sometimes safe is not good.
Right.
You don't want to resent.
I don't think, if I can argue, I don't want to argue, but just like some people would point out that even a W-2 is not safe, right? Or going to college today is not really safe because your job's not necessarily guaranteed. I have a lot of cousins have bachelor's or master's degrees that can't find jobs, or that had to go into a totally different career, like medical space, or they went and got an engineering degree, but dude, they're working at a hospital as a nurse now, or such kinds of things are very similar. And even in your dad's story, right? Like his W-2 job, right? It's like, what does safe actually mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, anyway, but that's awesome, dude. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. Couple quick questions and let's get out of here so we can jump on that call. Do you have anyone you would want to have dinner with, like a sales thought leader or?
Dude, Gary V. That's a quick one. Yeah.
Okay.
Gary V for sure. I love his energy, but I just love the way he talks. And like, I would love to see him, like doing the sales that he used to do before, like just to kind of see what kind of energy he brings and like, his, social media personality, from what he's saying, it sounds very same, like seeing him do talks and stuff like that. Like it seems very consistent. So I'd be very curious to see, when business, owners like reach out to him to do like, if he does like one-on-one coaching, like I would love to see how he does that. Like, I want to see kind of how his mind works with that. But also he just seems like a super, super fun dude. Like I would love to just kind of
it'd be a fun hang for sure.
Yeah.
Any favorite TV show or movie on sales?
I'll be honest, no, I'm still new enough in this and I'm trying to find like all the.
He's new enough, bro. Would you mind sharing how much cash you've collected this month in just like about 11 days?
Yeah, I've collected in 11 days what took me all of last month to make, which is like 22,000, 23,000, somewhere in there. So it took me all of last month to make that. And then I've made that now just in the first 11 days.
Sheesh. You should recoup that investment back in the next month here if you go at this pace.
Oh yeah, no, it'll be
awesome. Man.
It'll be good, yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, Eddie. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, my man. I appreciate
pleasure.
it.
I had so much fun. We got to have you back. The conversation. I'm in flow, so we got to do this again, dude. Guys, if you're interested to want to do what Eddie did, right, and actually join and get coaching and get placement within our company, click the first link in the bio or description below, I should say, and schedule a call with us, chat with us about it, right? And look, if you're not quite ready to do that right now, but you're looking to figure out and start doing some of the research that Eddie talked about, guys, click the second link in the description below, which is going to get you access to our free school community. And we can get started with paying no money, guys. We do 5 days of live coaching calls for completely free. The same team leaders and individuals that have scaled our sales agency, One Call Closers, to almost 200 million in revenue in just the last 5 years are the same people in Closers Network that are giving you free 5 days a week coaching. Take advantage of it. We hope to see you in there. And again, if you want to actually talk about coaching and getting placement and doing what Eddie's doing right now, click the first link in the bio. Thank you guys so much. We hope to see you on the next episode. Eddie, thanks again, man.
Thank you, Mike. Awesome. Appreciate it, my man.